Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and thanks for joining once again. If you are new around here, please click that subscribe button, hit your bell for notifications and be notified as to when our content goes live. So today is our OS6 tutorial for Proffie, long awaited OS6, bringing a lot, and I mean a lot, of things to the platform. So many features, it's going to be ridiculous. Today however, we're going to concentrate on a few things. First and foremost, we're going to be concentrating on how to build your config. Secondly, how to actually structure your SD card. And thirdly, we're going to look at the edit mode. A lot of people have asked me about edit mode. It seems to be the feature that most people are looking forward to the most. There are a bunch of new features with OS 6, but edit mode definitely seems to be the most popular one. What does edit mode do? It essentially allows you to change blade styles and other various parts of your setup on the Saber itself without having to go back and do a new config. Definitely has its limitations, however it is a fantastic feature to have with Proffie. So a few things that you're going to need to do this. First one going to be a micro SD card reader. Preferably grab yourself like a USB 3 one, makes things a hell of a lot easier and faster. Second thing is going to be a micro USB data cable for your Proffie board. That enables us to connect your Proffie board to your PC. And the last thing that you're going to need is patience. A lot of it. Seriously, a lot. Now, if you haven't seen my original Proffie tutorial, please go back and check that out. There are a couple of things in terms of software that you may need. One is called Arduino. It allows us to communicate with the board via our chosen PC or Mac or whatever. The second thing that we're going to need is a program called Zadig, but only if you're on Windows. Zadig is not needed if you are running a Mac. Please, if you haven't seen that video, go back, watch that and then come back to us here. No point in me covering the same thing multiple times on the channel. If you have any questions, however, please leave them down below. I'm more than happy to help. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through, we're going to show you everything that you need, where to get it. We're going to run through the config, how it's a little bit different for OS 6 or OS 6.5 as we're on just now. So show you how to structure your SD card as well. And then we're actually going to show you a neat little trick as to how to add sound fonts to the Saber without having to go back into your config and adding more styles. Essentially what my thoughts are on this really is I want to obtain a config that has enough styles on there to where I can go and use this nifty little trick and then just build the style up on the Saber. We'll have a little demo of that more towards the end of the tutorial. But the main part of this tutorial and the main point of this tutorial really is, like I said, to demonstrate the likes of the config, getting that onto your board and how to organise your SD card. So without any further ado, let's dive in. This is going to be fun. Okay guys, so before we get into this, I am going to assume that a lot of you have done this before in terms of OS 5.9, 5.7, etc, etc. If this is your first time doing Proffie, you want to go back and watch my original Proffie video. I'll leave a link up somewhere up top, as you do require some software to be able to do this. The software you need is called Arduino. Arduino allows you to write the code to the soundboard, and if you're using a Windows-based PC, you will also need some software called Zadig, and Zadig installs the drivers onto your computer to allow it to recognize the soundboard. If you're on a Mac, you don't need to use Zadig, as Macs are already capable of STM32 bootloading, which is essentially the driver and the communication method it uses with Arduino. So go back please and watch the video. I will pin it up top. Very simple, not difficult at all. But for 6.5, first thing you're going to want to do is come here, download version 6.5. Click on that, it's going to download. You want to unzip that onto your desktop or wherever you like to keep it. The second thing you want to do is come over to FET's OS 6 style library, and I'll put all these links in the description below guys. Don't freak out, please just take your time with this. don't skip ahead, pause the video where necessary. This is not difficult at all, it's super easy. Once you've done it a couple times, it's literally no sweat. My goal with this config, especially because we have the edit mode now on the Saber itself, is to create a config that has enough combinations of styles to where I don't have to really ever edit the config, at least not for quite some time until more styles come out. You may wonder how then, if I wanted to add sound fonts onto the Saber itself, how would I do that without actually physically adding them to the config? I will show you that at the end of the video. There's a little trick that I like to use. It's hella cool, really simple, and it allows you to build your style on the Saber itself, opposed to basically doing a new config or adding more line to the config. Let's crack on. We want to come to edit mode. We want to scroll down. By the way, in here, you're going to have little bits of all of the controls. So for 2 and 3 button setups, for 1 button setups, we are using a 1 button setup for this tutorial. You can get a list of the controls through this website as well. We're going to scroll down to get edit mode voice files. We're going to click on this and it's going to take you to this website. Here you can download English, Chinese, Spanish, French, Russian, Japanese, or Italian voice packs. And the voice packs are used for, essentially for edit mode. So for example, when you're going through the options, style options, color profile, all that kind of stuff, it's a vocal prompt. I have chosen English, obviously, because I speak English. Some people may find that hard to believe. And I've chosen the third one because it's a real nice female voice, which I was recommended to use that one. Apparently it's the best one and the most kind of understandable. So that's the one I chose. Once you have that downloaded, unzip it, and you're going to be left with this common folder. Or even just get a folder and name it common, put all this stuff inside it. All of these little audio files. One thing you won't have in here, which you'll have to add manually, very easy, right click, new folder, is the tracks folder. Now this is where we're going to put all of our sound tracks. This folder is going to end up on our SD card. This is the final destination for this folder. And this folder allows your soundboard to access those files, those vocal prompts for when you're doing things on the Saber itself. So go ahead, unpack that and set this up and leave it on your desktop ready to drop onto your SD card when we eventually plug that in. Next up, I want you to go ahead and download this configuration file. Now I will leave this configuration file again in a link in the description. This is my config file. It initially started out life as FET263's sample file, but it was set up with like crystal chambers and multiple blades and whatnot, and I don't have any of that, so I've had to change it up to make it more suitable. So for the purposes of this tutorial, up here number of blades is 1, because I only have 1 blade. I don't have a crystal chamber, I don't have quillion blades or side blades. If you do, then you just put in what number you need. Number of buttons, 1. Again, I only have a 1 button Proffie, which we're doing this on. I do have a 2 button with the Skinny Flex, but I don't really want to mess with that. I think it's perfect on it. So we're going with a 1 button LGT Fallen Order for this tutorial. So again, number of buttons 1. Volume 1800, I kind of leave it there, to be honest. Clash threshold 4.5. I mean, some people have their own preferences. 4.5 is okay. Sometimes I put it to maybe down to about 3. Now, you'll notice we have all of our gesture controls here as well. They are already activated with the defines. A couple of important ones, guys. If anyone wants to change any of this, which I wouldn't recommend, don't delete these two, or these three rather. Edit mode menu, enable all edit options, and keep save files when programming. These two here enable the full edit mode, and this one here essentially saves whatever edits you make to your sound font. So for example, if you want to change the ignition style, and you go on and change it from a standard ignition to a spark tip ignition, what the soundboard is going to do is it's going to write a little file onto the SD card, and it's going to save it on there. Also, like I said earlier in the video, that is part of the way that we can add sound fonts very, very easily when we have done our actual initial config. But again, we'll get into that later on. We just want to focus just now on the initial config, building out our style library on the Saber, and getting it onto the soundboard. Very important that we're using FET263's buttons prop file. Where do we get the blade styles for this? Let's go back to FET's website. Come back to the website here, we hit continue, and here we have a lot of stuff, and this might look very, 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 very overwhelming, but trust me, it's not really. Let's look at the rotoscope, for example. So this is the rotoscope blade style. On my config, I believe I have the rotoscope for ESB, this guy right here, and you'll notice here it says default 0. That's option 0. We go in there and basically choose whatever we want. So we'll go for hyper responsive rotoscope or original trilogy. Add option, so we can add another style. So we can go to regular rotoscope single color original trilogy. We can then add another style, and we can go rotoscope prequels. We can add a third style, audio rotoscope single color sequel. So that is 4 styles, 4 different blade styles within this one little style, essentially. What we're going to do is I'm going to hit main blade. Now if you have secondary blades or crystal chamber, whatever, if you're the type of person that has any of these options, I'm going to assume that you know what you're doing. This stuff is pretty high end for the most part, so I will assume that you kind of know what you're doing. This tutorial is for a single blade only, so we're going to hit main blade. Come to this screen. So first and foremost, we're going to say, okay, we want a nice deep sky blue blade. Tells you up here, this style contains 4 unique combinations that we can add to this. So if you want preons, choose preons here. Ignition effect, standard ignition. You want to add another ignition effect? Spark tip. Want to add another ignition effect? Let's go gravity. Ignition time. Now, a little note here at the side that says if 0 auto feature is used, ignition will be based on the .wav file length. Don't do this for the out file. Do it for the in file, but not the out file. If we do it for the out file, the ignition file, then what's going to happen is a lot of these ignition sound files can kind of tail off, become very, very quiet as it blends into the main hum. You're going to get, it doesn't really, it's not going to match up. It's going to look kind of hooky. So always do a manual ignition time. Most are around about 300, unless it's a super slow ignition, maybe 800 or whatever. But I usually do a lot of mine at 300. Retraction effect, standard retraction, add another one. Gravity retraction, add another one. Split retraction. So there's 3 different retraction options there. This one I'm going to leave at 0. because that's going to use the length of the audio file for our in or our retraction file. And it's going to time it perfectly from the end of the tip of the blade right down to the top of the hilt. So always leave this at 0, unless you want it super slow, but I don't know why you'd do that, because this is going to time it perfectly. So leave it at 0. So what we're doing, guys, we'll come up to the top right hand corner. You'll notice that we've gone from 4 unique combinations to 36 unique combinations. You're basically creating a style library on your board. So if we take a little look here at this config file, you'll notice that up here is your this is your identifier. So whatever this is on the config, obviously it has to be exactly the same letter for letter on the SD card. Please keep in your copyright for FET. Show some respect. The guy is so friggin' committed. And it says this style contains 18 unique combinations. It tells you what the style options are. So for this one, for example, you've got the Fallen Order KSith style, the second sister style, and the ninth sister style. Gives you a rundown of what effects have been included. So ignition effect, we've got default being standard, number 1 being spark tip, and number 2 being gravity. Power up effect, got a power flash on there. Retraction effect options, standard retraction, gravity retraction. Gives you a nice little rundown of all the options that you have available. So if you go through a lot of these styles on FET's website, you're going to essentially build a little library of blade styles on your board with your config. And you're going to be able to use any of those styles with any of the fonts that you put on there. So if you're happy with the options that you've chosen, you just hit get style code and you just paste it into your config. Now when you paste it into your config, you're not going to have this line right here. What you're going to get is from here all the way down to here. That's what you're going to get. So make sure that you do include this top line. Coming to this top line in a little second, we're going to see common/tracks. Now this is basically the tracks folder that we are putting into the SD card. It's in the common folder, so it knows that it's looking for the common folder and then looking for the tracks folder inside the common folder. It's looking for specific audio files to play. Make sure that every one of your styles has this relevant information. So we've done one style with a bunch of combinations. What I've added here is an identifier. So if you're using the web USB in future, there's a web USB option where you can go on. That's a little online tool, which is great. This is completely optional, but I would just put it on just in case. You're going to want to, if you're not putting another style on, you just want your bracket, your closed bracket. And if you are going to add another style, you just want to put a little comma after that. Let's look at the next style. We've got our ESB. Again, ESB has to be exactly the same on here as it is on the SD card when we get to that. And again, it runs down everything that you've chosen from FET style library. Gives you a rundown of all the options. So just 6 unique combinations for this one. Tells you all the effects, and again it gives you the style code. You've got the crossguard one, or the Kylo Ren. So this gives you the default 0 Kylo Ren unstable film based, and then option 1 Kylo Ren unstable Supreme Leader. And again, you've got a little rundown of the effects that you've chosen, which is really, really handy because sometimes you kind of forget what effects you've actually chosen to make a style, and it gives you a little rundown of everything that's included in that. Induction, we've gone for the energy blade style. This one has 12 unique combinations. Default 0 is a surging pulse. Then we have rolling pulse, Death Star blast, energy saw, random pulse, halo energy sword. Again, we got a little rundown. So all we're doing here, folks, is we're really just adding, I would say, up to maybe 8 to 10 sound fonts onto the config file, going through each one of these styles, selecting whatever options that you want. So you can essentially, for example, the Star Wars Visions one, you can select Ronin and then just load it all up and have every single option available. Just go through, again, get a simple static flicker, add whatever options you want, build up your little own library on your configuration file. Now obviously we can't select everything and have everything on there because you're really bound by the onboard memory, but I think 8 to 10 is definitely doable depending on what options that you have. So for example, for this one, I'm quite happy with this for just now. We're going to file, and you want to save as, and the destination for this is going to be inside your Proffie config folder. So what you want to do is you want to go into your actual Proffie OS folder, find the config, then all files, save type as, so select all files, and it really wants to be whatever you want. So in terms of my config 6, which this one is, .h as a H file. I'm just gonna hit my config 6, hit save, hit yes to overwrite it, and that's it. So our config is now complete. What we're going to do next is we're going to open up our Proffie OS folder and then open up the Proffie OS Arduino file. Okay guys, so Arduino's open. I want you guys to go up to Tools, come to Board, and you're going to want to select Proffie Board V2. But you want to go to Boards Manager, and you want to go to Search Bar and type in Proffie. And I want you to install the package for 3.6. Install that, and then close out. But make sure that your Board Manager is V2 selected, Proffie Board V2. This is the board that we're using. If you're lucky enough to have a 3.7 board, you would choose V3. But most of us have a V2.2 board, so that's what we choose, V2. And here, our define, our green confine, our green define rather, you're gonna type in the name of your config. So my config 6, and it already has the .h. Come up here to verify. I'm going to click verify. What we're looking here for, folks, is we're looking for Arduino to tell us that it's used so much memory. You might get a few lines of orange code beforehand. Just ignore that. As long as it doesn't say error, you're fine. So here we go. So see all of this stuff here. Ignore. We're looking for this guy right here. Sketch uses 75% of program storage space. So what this means is our config is fine, it's ready to go, it's ready to rock and roll. The next step is now to set up our SD card. So let's go do that. Okay guys, we're back on the desktop. Now I have made this folder here to simulate my SD card. At this point you would take your micro SD, plug it into your computer, and you want to really delete everything from your SD card and go for a blank, a clean canvas for this. Now, obviously, back up things that you need. Don't just delete everything and it's gone forever and then blame me for it. Please back up things that you need, but you want to start with a blank SD card. We're going to take our common folder that we downloaded earlier on in the video, and we're going to drag that onto our SD card. Now, the next thing we're going to do is confer with our config. So, the first sound font I have on here is Survivor. So I'm going to go to my little sound font collection, Kyberphonic, find Survivor, and I'm going to copy and paste that onto the SD card. Now, one thing to make note, please ensure that the way that this is written is exactly the same way as it's written in here. So you'll notice it's different on the SD card. It says the Survivor. I'm going to edit that just so it says Survivor. And even with the capitalized S, the exact way it's written here, guys, has to be exactly the same on the SD card. Next one up is going to be ESB. Again, I think Kyberphonic. ESB Graphics. I'm going to grab a copy of the Proffie file. And again, guys, it has to be the Proffie file. If you are downloading sound fonts, a lot of sound font makers do include Proffie CFX and whatnot, so make sure you are using the correct file. And again, I'm going to rename this because it's just called ESB in our config. Next up, I believe, was KSith's Crossguard. Same again. I'm just gonna paste this over, and again, just need to rename it to exactly the same way that I named it on config file. Induction. I want to grab my Proffie file for this. And I'm going to rename this Induction. So that is the 4 sound fonts we have loaded onto the config. They are now on the SD card as well. Now, soundtracks. Looking for tracks. A lot of sound fonts will have soundtracks with them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these soundtracks here, JFO 1 through 19. I'm going to copy them. And I'm going to come into the common folder, into the tracks, and I'm going to paste them into there. Now, what this means is that the Survivor font, you start the track player, it will start playing JFO 1 first, and then it will work its way through every single one of these tracks. So you can put on it whatever you want to, from whatever fonts you want, it will just play its way through with the track player. So that's our SD card pretty much complete, guys, for this config. Obviously, if you have more sound fonts on your config, then you go ahead and you add how many other sound fonts you have. But for me, for this sample, we have 4. That's our 4 there. And this is how your SD card is going to look. You have your common folder, and then whatever sound fonts that you need or want on there. The next step is to plug in your Proffie to your computer. And we already know that our config is absolutely fine. So we're now just going to hit upload. Now, I've already uploaded this config to my Saber, so I don't have to do it again. You're going to hit upload, and then what it's going to do is it's going to re-verify your config file. It takes a few seconds. And then down in this area, you'll see a bunch of code and then a little percentage timer, little percentage bar, which tells you the progress of the upload. Once it's done that, obviously, don't forget to disconnect your Proffie board properly first through the software, and then disconnect it manually. Pop your SD card back into your Proffie board, battery back in, and fire it up. Okay, folks, so we have done our config, set up our SD card, we've put our config onto our Proffie board, we've put all of our relevant sound fonts onto our SD card, we've put everything back together, everything's working, great. The next step you're going to want to do is go into the edit mode on your Saber. Controls are on Bett's website, really easy to follow. And you're going to want to make a change to anything. So, go into a sound font, go into the edit mode, and change an ignition style, or change a blade style, and save it. What that's going to do is it's going to tell your Proffie board to write this presets file. Now, all of this, whoops, all of this will appear on your SD card when you change something with edit mode and save it. You want to go to the presets file, configuration setting, and this is what you'll be greeted with. So, you've got your preset for font of Survivor, rack, style, and then the identifier name, well, variation 0. The next one's new preset for ESB, then crossguard, and then down here we've got induction. Let's say, for example, that we want to add another sound font to our board, but we don't want to do another config, or we don't want to add more blade styles because our memory is quite full. Very simple. Just going to delete this end at the bottom. We're going to copy this new preset all the way down. We're going to copy that, paste it below. And let's say we want to add, oh, I don't know, the sorcerer. Font is sorcerer. Edit that out. And again, it's exactly the same with the config, guys. This here must match the way your file is named on the SD card. Alright. Now, you might think, yeah, okay, that's great, but it's going to have the same style for induction. What we can do is we can load the font on this way, and we can go into edit mode on the Saber, and we can actually build our own style for this sound font, color, ignition style, blade style, retraction style, all your timings, everything. All we're doing just now is adding a couple more sound fonts. Let's go again with another one. And this time we're gonna do, let's say R1. Father V2 R1, Rogue One. Wait. Awesome sound font. Again, name R1. Style isn't really important just now because we're going to do that on the Saber itself. Underneath here though, if you're finished, you just put end. Then you're just going to save that file. Close that out. And we're going to do exactly the same things we did before. We're going to go and find our Father V2 here. R1. Want our Proffie version. Paste it onto our SD card. Make sure it's named exactly the same way as it is in that little presets file. And we want the Sorcerer Beskar. Love the Beskar one. Again, copy and paste it onto our SD card. I'm just going to name it Sorcerer. Same again with your tracks, any tracks that you want. You can actually
edit the track in the preset as well, the name of the track. For the purpose of the demonstration, guys, I've just left everything as JF01, but you can obviously, if you wanted to, go into the Sorcerer, Extras, Tracks, and you can import all these tracks, give them a name or whatever, and you can choose to have them, you know, as a track for the font. What we're going to do now is we're going to go back over. We'll take our SD card out, put it back into our saber. We're going to fire our saber up. We're going to navigate to our R1 font, and we're going to have a little go at creating the style on the saber itself. So I'll see you in a little second. Okay guys, we've got our SD card back in, everything's done, and I can't really stress enough that the important thing with this whole process is take your time. Don't skip ahead, don't think that you know it all, because trust me, you will make a mistake, you will get frustrated, and you'll spend a lot more time on this than you really necessarily have to. Just follow the video, pause where necessary, go back and follow everything, you will get there. Of course, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, anything that you're not sure of. If you just leave the comments down below, but please, please, please watch the video first. It's very disparaging when people just automatically post a comment in the video without even watching it. You'll find that the answer is most likely, not definitely, but most likely within the tutorial itself. So please guys, watch the video before. If it's a genuine request, I have no problems, no problems at all answering people and helping people where I can. But please definitely watch the full tutorial first. So we're going to boot up our saber. This is the Fallen Order LGT. Acquired this one from Padawan Outpost, one of my favourite shops, as you know. I'm going to go to
select preset
R1. So I'm going to hold down the button, select preset, and just twist it.
Second, sister. I've been waiting for this. Second. Young Ray.
So I have added a few more. This is what we're looking for. R1. Single quick press, that locks it in. And from the presets that we just done a little moment ago, you'll notice that it does have the induction blade. So the ignition is far too quick, and we're going to sort that out. So single button, we're going to just double press, but on the single press you're going to hold it down.
edit mode.
Edit mode. You're going to twist the saber on this axis and you'll go through all the options. So let's configure this the way we want it for a nice slow ignition, little spark tip as well, solid blade.
Edit style.
Edit style.
Select option. Select style.
Select style.
Style 3. Option 0.
So what we're doing now is we're going through all the styles that we put onto our initial config.
Style 4. Option 0. Style 0. Option 0. Style 1. Style 2. Option 0. Style 3. Option 0. Style 4. Option 0.
So we'll go for style 4 because style 4 has a solid blade.
Save. Style menu.
That's saved. Edit style settings.
Select option. Style options. Ignition time.
Ignition time, this is the next one. We want to just keep on rotating it until it gets slower and slower. I'd say that's quite good there. Again, tap it
Save. Select option.
to save it.
Retraction time.
Retraction time, we left that at 0 for everything, so it's standard set to auto. That means it's going to follow the length of the audio file, which it works great every time. But I do like to set the manual settings for the ignition.
Flash lockup position.
Loads of options on here, guys. Play around with it all.
Drag size. Mount size. Style options. Ignition time. Retraction time.
So we're going back round again. So we want to go to the previous set of menus. So you just hold down. It will say cancel.
Cancel. Main menu.
So now we're going to go ahead and do our colour. So back to the main menu.
Edit font. Edit color.
Edit colour.
Color menu. Color options.
Colour options.
Select effect. Base color.
Base colour.
Select option. Color list.
Then colour list.
Red.
There we go. Red.
Save. Color options.
And we're going to go back again. So hold the button down. It will say cancel.
Cancel.
And it's still
Main
saved.
menu. Edit font. Edit track. Edit settings. Copy preset. Delete preset.
So you get a lot of different options. So now we've just done we've got our style, nice solid blade. We've done our extension time, nice and slow.
Option 1. Save. Select option. Cancel. Main menu.
So we're just going through the different menus, guys. It takes a little bit of getting used to, I won't lie, but once you've used it for a little bit, you will be completely comfortable with it. You start to build up a little kind of picture in your head as to how it's all layered and how it's all set out.
Exit.
And that's it. So we've now basically taken a sound font, added it the way we've added it, and then gone into the blade style kind of editor on the saber itself. And then we've got a nice slow retraction, little spark tip, Rogue One Vader. We've got our gesture controls as well. I'm sure we've actually got swing out on this one. Yeah, we do. There we go. Thrust out too. So, that's how easy it is, guys, to essentially use OS 6 to empower your experience with Proffie. I mean, if you can build a config that's got enough options for you within the config, and you can just then go and use that little method I showed you to add sound fonts, build up your style on the saber itself, plenty of options. Yeah, I mean, you're winning. All day long, you're winning. But anyway, that's it for this one, folks. Please remember to like the video, comments and questions down below. I'm more than happy to answer questions and help people out, but please watch the video first. A lot of your answers may be in the video. If you are new around here, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell for notifications of our newest content. I'll see you in the next one, but until next time, may the Force be with you all.